The invocation for today's ceremony is being given by Reverend Joseph Morgan, Sergeant Major, United States Marine Corps, retired. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the March On of the Colors, followed by the playing of our national anthem.
Let us pray. God our Father, gather here on these hallowed grounds. We do so with thanksgiving for the memories of those who left legacy, who we have stood on the shoulders of which we stand today, whereby you have given to us, through your divine sovereignty, the gift of freedom and democracy. It is for this reason we invoke your blessings this morning as we are here in total solidarity, as we break ground to a place that will showcase the memories and sacrifices of years of honor, courage, and commitment that reminds us of the past and introduce us to the present of those who serve on behalf of freedom today. We ask you to strengthen the work of our hands as we are persistent in the mission that is before us, in the completion of the Museum of Marines of the Carolina. As we put our hands to the plow, we won't give up, but we ask your help to remain vigilant in the work that is ahead of us. We ask this in the name of our Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. John B. Solis.
Thank you, Corporal Carmona. Thank you, Marines. Thank you for being here today, and I want to thank the Marines who are out here at 0 dark 30, as Marines usually are, doing all the hard work that has set this ceremonial stage for what we're about today. To keep us focused on this mission, we are under no illusion as to the difficulty of the task at hand. You know, on 25 May 1961, and if I do the math, I was about 12 years old back then, President Kennedy suggested to our Congress that before the end of the decade, we should put a man on the moon. That happened in about 8 years. Now, there were people hallucinating in 1969. That was the summer of Woodstock. But I don't think we were hallucinating when we put a man on the moon. It took 8 years, and we were racing the Soviet Union then. We're not in a race here with the Soviet Union. It took 8 years to put a man on the moon. It's taken us about 15 years to put a shovel in the ground, and that's a long time. And as Commissioner Barbara Eichner was saying, we live in an era of instant gratification. You buy a brick and you want to see the walkway and you want to see where your brick is. So those of you who have invested in a brick to memorialize a Marine, or in Bob Dupuy's case, to memorialize his own service, he's bought several bricks. Thank you, Bob, for that. You're going to see your bricks. You're going to get that gratification. And about 5 months from now, about 5 months, those of you who know anything about construction projects, Bob Warden assures us it's going to be about 5 months. We're going to be back here, and you're going to see the fruits of all the years of labor and pain and strain and wending our way through the bureaucracy of dealing with our beloved Marine Corps, Headquarters Marine Corps, Department of the Navy, and elsewhere, to begin to bring to fruition a dream that has been kept alive for many years. And we thank you, all of you, for being here today. We're delighted to have this turnout. Last night, a number of us were privileged to be guests at a reception hosted by Colonel Escalante. He showed us some of his Texas hospitality, North Carolina style, and thank you. We had a wonderful time last night, and he in his brief remarks, he impressed upon us what we know, how lucky we are, how blessed we are to be in this community, surrounded by people here today and those who aren't, but we believe they're with us in spirit in support of lots of things that we do in this community. And it's no secret how we get things done in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and Onslow County. If you need public funding, you go to your elected officials. And whether you get down on one knee and beg for it, or however you do it, you ask them to trust you to make good on a promise to which we have committed ourselves. And we want to be equal to the support that we have received throughout the life cycle that has led us to this point, from the city of Jacksonville, from Onslow County, from our state representatives, and from a lot of very generous individuals who have provided private funding. It's no secret if you need private funding where you start. You go to Marine Federal Credit Union for starters, and I just want to tell you, we would not be here today if not for the support we've had every step of the way, through all the moments of doubt, through all the periods of skepticism when people were ready to throw in the towel and say, maybe this is too much. Maybe Jacksonville and Onslow County can't bring this about. So you're going to go to Craig Chamberlain, and you're going to go to Buddha Howard, and you're going to go to Jones Onslow Electric Membership Corporation, and you're going to go to Itchy Popkin. And don't forget our car dealers. If you haven't noticed, we have some very prosperous car dealerships in our city. So you're going to go to Mike Alford, and you're going to go to Harry Brown, and you're going to go to Johnny Stevenson, you're going to go to Don Williamson. And if you catch him at the right moment, when his guard is down, you might even get Matt Raymond to serve on your board, as we did. And we thank Matt Raymond, because when that man puts his mind to raising money, he does a wonderful job. And we go to lots of other people, too many for me to try to enumerate here, but you go to John and Debbie Ray Rouse, and you'd make a mistake if you didn't go to Cecil and Annette Hargett. When Cecil Hargett was our state senator, and this idea was very immature, the concept was there, we believed in it, he believed in it, he went out and raised big money for us. So we thank him for that. We thank George Cleveland, Harry Brown, other elected officials working in Raleigh who have supported us. We have architects and engineers, we have landscape architects, we have project managers, we have too many people to acknowledge one by one. Of course I could do it, I've committed them to memory, but you'll take my word for it, I'm sure. Bob Warden and Nick Lanier are telling us that as soon as we start talking, as soon as we take the picture, just about, figuratively speaking, we'll fire up the bulldozers and create a beautiful park, phase one, the precursor to the magnificent museum that will follow. Last night at Colonel Escalante's house, a lot of people were coming up and congratulating members of the board of directors and thanking us for what we've done and saying, gee, it's been a long time coming. And I'm sure you're all very relieved that this day has finally come, and they're right. And then other friends, and you know they're your friends when they feel comfortable telling you your baby's ugly, your daughter's, the marriage is never going to last. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your candor. Thank you for your support. There are many people who are saying, yeah, I have nothing against this museum, but are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, Jacksonville, North Carolina, we're never going to have a museum here. Well, I hate to disappoint our detractors and our skeptics, but stick around. We're going to have a museum here. It's going to be right here. And when those of us who are eminently forgettable are long gone and forgotten, there will be a museum here. There will be a magnificent park. And the Lejeune Memorial Gardens concept will have been fleshed out in full with all our magnificent memorials, those existing, those under construction, and those to come. And it occurs to me that when that day comes, people will stand in amazement, inspired that people undertook this massive project, and they're liable to scratch their heads and say, I wonder who in the world came up with this crazy idea. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm privileged to introduce the man who came up with this crazy idea. I hope you will welcome back one of the true, no kidding, legends of our Vietnam and post-Vietnam Marine.
Morning. Thank you. Please sit down. Jay told me I could take one of these and walk, which I would much prefer to do, but he also told me I had to be careful where I walk, which I would mess up, so I'm not going to take it off the podium. Well, let me start by thanks, Jay. I appreciate that introduction. Let me start by saying it is great to be back and I will say it is really like coming home to come back. I feel like I'm home. So it is great to be back. Shortly after I took command of the base in 97, in the summer of 97, we had what do we call it? State of the Community breakfast. I think it still goes on. And at the State of the Community breakfast, I was there to talk about what was likely to be happening in the near future with the base, etc. And after all of the speakers spoke, I was talking to somebody, I don't even remember who I was talking to, and I made the comment that if I didn't get a 2nd Marine Division museum open on the base before I finished my tour, my wife was going to leave me. And George was not the mayor at that time. He had been the mayor in the past and was going to be the mayor again in the future, but he was not the mayor, but he was there that morning and he heard me make that comment. And he caught me, I don't even think it was that day, I think it was a couple of days later, he captured me and he said, he told me he heard me make that comment, and he said, General, if you are serious about that, I beg you, don't put a museum on the base. Put it off the base where we can all get access to it, and it's easy to access. It'll be great for the community. It'll still be great for the Marines that you're concerned about. Please do it off the base. Within a couple of months of that conversation, Larry Fitzpatrick and the Walkers, Pat and Lee, came to see me because they wanted me to do something to get them a piece of land to build a Vietnam Veterans Memorial on. And first off, I will say this, I've said it before, I didn't think there was a chance in hell that they would actually do it, but I thought we sure as heck ought to encourage them to try. And the idea struck me that the Beirut Memorial was already here, the bypass was under construction, was going to cut off this triangle away from the rest of the base, and it occurred to me that a good idea would be to dedicate this whole piece of property to future memorials. And so, through the good offices of the base, I went up to and including Second Ave and got permission to dedicate this slice of 23 acres, 27 acres, I don't remember what it is now, but for memorials and gardens to memorialize for the future of things that might come. I thought at the time that before I died, there was the distinct possibility that on this ground we'd have memorials for Tarawa, and we'd have memorials for the Chosen, and we'd have memorials for Vietnam perhaps, and we'd have memorials for Grenada or Beirut or on and on. And of course we already had a Beirut memorial here. I thought it was kind of a big dream at the time, but I thought it was possible, and it certainly wouldn't happen if you didn't kind of have a path to follow. It's happened much better in many more ways than I thought at the time. It continues to happen. I'm not sure right now what the status of the Corman Memorial is, but I know it's moving forward. This is a great site, and I believe deeply that before I die, this will be the best place outside of perhaps Washington, D.C., for a citizen of the United States to come and see what the military service and military communities are all about. I deeply believe that. I think it's already perhaps that, and it's going to continue to grow. So back to George Jones' plea at the first, I committed myself, again with the strong encouragement of my late wife, to this project to build a museum here. The second thing I want to say this morning is I want to apologize to all of you that have worked so hard for so long on this for having abandoned you in your efforts. But life goes on, you know. I lost my number one motivation some time ago. I remarried, and I'm now a camp follower, got a dependence ID in my pocket, and that's good because I've discovered that the dependence ID gets me better medical care than the 35-year retiree ID does. I could be an illegal alien if I was married to an active duty sailor, and I'd have better medical care than I do as a retired general. So I'm where my wife goes now, and that's Great Lakes, Illinois, right, for the foreseeable future. Many people here today, or represented here today, have supported the idea of the museum from the beginning. And it has been a long road, and there's still a long road ahead of us. This community proved early on that I was right about the connection in this community. The commitment from the county commissioners, past and present, the commitment from the City Council of Jacksonville, past and present, and the commitment from so many business people in the community, most of whom Jay has already mentioned, has kept us alive. I really thought when we first got the commitments from the county and the city that we were rolling, we would do this in a matter of a few years. Well, the economy, I think, has had a big effect on all that. It's hard to raise money for any cause when people are losing money left and right. I think there's a good chance we'd have given up and died if Cecil hadn't come through like he did when he did. And the state has kept us afloat, I guess, in many ways because of Cecil's efforts, so thanks, Cecil, for that. I thank all of you for your continued support. I think even without the museum on this side, this would still be an unbelievably good place to visit. And the work dedicated here today will make it much better. It will make this whole site look like what we envision it to look like. So I'm really excited about this happening today. There's a number of people that have served on the board of the museum effort from the beginning almost. Well, Bruce Gumbar for sure has been in on the beginning. You know, Bruce was my chief of staff when I had the base, and Sergeant Major Joel Hoole was my sergeant major, and I'm not sure if I can take credit for them dedicating themselves to this like they have, or I can take blame if I'm talking to their wives for what they've done. But those two particularly, I can't fail to recognize. But all the guys that have served on the board, Matt Raymond, mentioned already. Matt, God, I love you. Keep charging, guy. But the community as a whole has continued the commitment. The community as a whole built the Vietnam Memorial on here, which is certainly second only to the one in Washington. And in many ways, I believe, as a Vietnam veteran, it's better than the one in Washington. It's certainly easier to find the names of those you want to find here. I'm really, really personally proud of what's happening here. And I will repeat myself a little bit by saying I'm also a little embarrassed that I've left you to do it without my help. But I can promise you I'm still rooting for you, and will continue to come home to Jacksonville and Onslow County every chance I get. Certainly I'll be here if I'm still alive, and I hope I'm still alive when we break the ground for the museum itself. Thanks for all you do, for continuing to do it, and thanks for having me back home. Let's get it done, all right, Dave? Thank you. Right foot on. One more time.